Good God Almighty. Good God Almighty. Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. You're going to be talking about AEW Dynamite, September 28th, 2022. No real news and notes. Anything that would be considered a news or a note, such as Malachi Black and his ongoing war with the Dirt Sheets, we will discuss on the live stream. Boy, how about that Dynamite? How about it? All right. So it was an interesting format change. Now I will give Tony Khan credit for that. He did some unique things with the format. He also let a lot of wrestlers not show up due to the hurricane. So especially because a lot of their wrestlers lived in Florida. So he was kind of like, okay, you don't have to come to the show. Just get out of the state or whatever. Take care of your family, whatever the case. He got railed for that a little bit. It wasn't really necessary. I mean, some people was like, I didn't look at my text messages, but I did look at Twitter. I didn't look at my emails, but sure, I looked at Twitter, and when Tony Khan tweeted out, I felt so loved or whatever. All right, man. If you say so, brother. But I'm not gonna attack the guy for, telling his folks that they ain't gotta come to goddamn Philadelphia when there's a hurricane in Florida. All right. Let's get into this show for Christ's sake. There was a celebration for Chris Jericho, the Ocho, which included everyone wearing purple, and the pizza flipping guy was back there. And he was such an almighty distraction. He's just back there making goofy faces, tossing that dough. And I'm like, what on earth? Why is he even out there? I don't understand why he's that guy. What is it? Luigi Primo. He has had more television time than Andrade and Miro. With this promo, he was out there for what, 15 minutes? 20 minutes? That's more TV time than Miro has had all month. That's more TV time than Andrade has had all month. He has more face time with the camera than guys who Tony Khan actually has under contract. Not even talking about the ridiculousness of having the pizza guy out there. I'm not even going to talk about that because it actually fits what Jericho is doing, which is making a mockery out of Ring of Honor and everything that he's been, which is what I said he was going to do. But he's out there making a mockery out of it. And, the Luigi Primo thing is just an addition to that. But it's crazy that this guy is essentially a flash in the pan on the internet. And he gets more television time than the Redeemer. Than Danielson. I mean, outside of the matches, Danielson gets no FaceTime on his camera. Let's move on. Daddy Magic, I don't know what his name is. Said he called Luigi in for the celebration, but there's no pizza for the crowd. There's no pizza for anybody. Anna Jay took up the microphone, and this was the beginning of bad promos. There was so many bad promos on this show. Jesus Christ. Anna Jay said that Chris Jericho was the greatest Ring of Honor world champion of all time. I think she screamed that no pizza for anybody. It was awful. Anna Jay, boy. Girl pretty as a picture, but as soon as she opens her mouth, the picture cracks. It turns into the fucking screaming thing. What's that screaming picture? It's just it's horrible, bro. Jericho get the microphone. Everything is an upswing from here. Jericho's talking about more people seeing him be Ring of Honor World Champion than seeing any other Ring of Honor World Champion because nobody cares about Ring of Honor. Then he said there's a new era. It's called the Ring of Jericho. And then he said that he talked about how Bandito is phenomenal. He's going to blow everybody's mind, but he's a sports entertainer. And sports entertainers beat pro wrestlers every single time. Then he said he thinks that Daniel Garcia is amazing, and he got a gift for him, which was a purple bucket hat. Not a Kangol hat, which is what he's been wearing, but a purple bucket hat, like he's LL Cool J in 1985. Oh God. Daniel Garcia is completely humorless as usual. So he throws the hat down and punched Luigi Primo in the face, or a forearm shivered him because he can't throw a punch, for Christ's sake. I mean, heavens to Betsy, somebody might actually throw a punch around here. Who knows who can happen with such violence on a wrestling show? Anyway, he said this isn't what he saw himself doing, and quite frankly, he's had enough. He said he had something else to say to Jericho. Jericho interrupted him by saying that Daniel Garcia was at a crossroads, and he's going to ask him one more time, is he a sports entertainer or a pro wrestler? Before Daniel Garcia got to respond, Bryan Danielson waltzed out there. Danielson said that he thinks Jericho is trying to tell Daniel Garcia who he is and what he should be. But Daniel Garcia is a grown man. He can do whatever he wants. Jericho interrupts by saying that Daniel Garcia belongs to him, and Daniel Garcia does what he tells him to do. Daniel Garcia then jumped in and said that he doesn't belong to Chris Jericho, and he does what he wants. And then he goes through a bunch of things that he thinks might be entertaining, like picking up Luigi Primo's pizza and throwing it, like tag teaming with Bryan Danielson, or some other stuff that really, I think he said he wanted to be a tag team partner with the ring announcer or something. It was just a bunch of dumb shit. I mean, this kid just has no business cutting this promo, but okay, whatever. Then Daniel Garcia just outwardly challenged Chris Jericho to a match by saying he would team with Bryan Danielson to wrestle Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And I was just kind of like, okay. He never officially turned on Jericho, and he challenged Jericho to a match. What? Okay. Either way it goes, Fat 2.0 jumped into this thing and got really mad at Bryan Danielson. And he also got mad at Daniel Garcia. Said that when Daniel Garcia didn't have anything, 2.0 had his back. And now he's turning his back on them. And that he was a nobody until they came up. So then Danielson said he had an open contract after talking to Tony Khan. He can wrestle whoever he wants. And since 2.0 guy just challenged him to a fight, said he wanted to hit him, he ended up accepting his challenge. So the first match was Bryan Danielson versus Fat 2.0, aka Daddy Magic. This match was way too long for starters, and featured William Regal being incredibly gay for Excalibur, calling him a Rice Krispie treat who can snap, crackle, and pop him anytime. I know it's kind of been a running gag with William Regal with this thing with Excalibur. It's really weird though. It's really weird. Stop doing it, please. Anyway, when Skinny 2.0 kept getting involved, Claudio Castagnoli, we all remember him, right? The guy who didn't get a rematch. Okay. Anyway, we remember that guy. He came out there and he absolutely tore the other guy apart. He literally European uppercutted him out of his shoes and then carried him away like a small child. Shortly thereafter, Danielson hit the Busaiku knee and the label lock, and Fat 2.0 tapped out. All right. Who cares, right? Who gives a shit? Now, Tony Khan promised us that he was going to have informative videos to tell people why Juice Robinson and Bandito were getting matches tonight. He lied on both counts. They told us about them, but no real informative videos. I mean, there were vignettes, okay, but they were basically match vignettes where they talked about, Chris Jericho's going to do this and Jericho's going to do that, and Bandito, yeah, he's a great athlete, one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. He was a Ring of Honor world champion. It's like, okay, but he doesn't work there. Why is he getting a championship match? Well, he never really lost that title. Is that why he's getting a championship match? Because Claudio didn't lose either, and Claudio wrestled, what is it, just last week? So why are we skipping the guys who don't work there? You know who else didn't get a title match or rematch? Jonathan Gresham. He also didn't get a rematch. Okay, never mind. Main event of the evening, Bandito versus Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho wins with the Walls of Jericho. This match was 25 minutes or something like that of just Bandito emptying the chamber. He just did everything possible to Chris Jericho. He even did his finish, which was 21 pledge. And Jericho kicked out of everything. The match ends with an eye poke in the Walls of Jericho, and Bandito tapped out. Solid enough match. I didn't hate it. Big fan of Bandito. Hate that he had to go out like this, but it is what it is. I'm not surprised. He got the crowd woke up, which was good. Especially when he did the top rope fall away slam. That was pretty great. After the match, Chris Jericho got on the microphone and says that the Ring of Jericho era has become, and he's going to desecrate and destroy the legacy of Ring of Honor. And he's going to start by beating all of the former Ring of Honor world champions. And there are quite a few on this roster, so he has a pretty good run to go. And then he says he's going to start October the 12th against Danielson. And I think he said it's going to be in Winnipeg, I think he said. Anyway, or in Toronto or whatever. Then he says he's going to destroy every Ring of Honor announcer and every Ring of Honor commentator. And then he attacked Bobby Cruz to go off the air and beat him up. So he beat up Bobby Cruz. Nobody did anything because it's Chris Jericho. But at least we got Chris Jericho. We are basically doing what I thought Jericho would do, which is to be he is going to be what Vince was to the ECW title. That's what he's going to be to the Ring of Honor World title. And no doubt that's where Jericho got the idea from. So, but they added a little extra twist that Jericho's going to defeat all of the former Ring of Honor World Champions. And there are so many on this roster. Why he would start with Danielson seems kind of silly to me. It's like, okay, you have some lower level ones to beat. Bandito was one. Okay. But are you going to wrestle Gresham again? Or are you going to wrestle Claudio? Is Samoa Joe going to do a job to Chris Jericho? Jay Lethal is on the roster. I'm pretty sure Jericho can beat Jay Lethal and it won't bother anybody and upset nobody. It's like, I think one or two more before we get to Danielson. I think Danielson should be like the final boss of Ring of Honor World Champions. But I'm okay with the Jericho angle. So I don't have a problem with it. And him going about shitting on Ring of Honor, it's a good way to, again, build up a baby face to defend Ring of Honor, which is what we all figured, all of us who have brain cells, we all figured that's what he would do. Is he would be the guy that come out there and desecrate Ring of Honor and shit all over it. And then somebody would have to be the hero to stand up against them. It just kind of sucks that it won't be Danielson. Because Danielson has to lose to Jericho, right? Unfortunately. But Daniel Garcia having a chance to cut a mic. Well, he did cut the mic. He cut the mic the fuck off. He should have cut it off. I said it right. I ain't botched nothing. Anyway, that guy, I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. I don't see what's so good about this fucking guy, man. This is like week 16 of me just looking at this guy, just shrugging. Like, at best, he's inoffensive. Like, that's the worst thing about it is at best, it's bland. When it's really bad, it's like really bad. But this week, it just reaches like bland level. Where it was just kind of like anybody could have cut this promo. There was nothing special about it. They're going to keep shoving that kid in between Jericho and Danielson, trying to force him over. And the crowd, it's an AEW crowd. They like, these guys. So they're, giving them a positive reaction. But I'm sitting there like Al Bundy, just kind of waiting for this fucking 20-minute segment to end. And then when it finally did end, the torture continued because I had to watch fucking Daddy Magic for another, 10 to 12 minutes. Get the fuck out of here. What horrible shit. And I will give Tony Khan, I'm going to say it again, I'll give Tony Khan some credit by starting the show with something other than really long match. He started the show with a segment to show off some characters and allow some character development. It was just really unfortunate that Bandito didn't come out there because Bandito speaks English. It would have been really better for Bandito to come out there and confront Jericho to set up the match for that night, rather than Danielson. We could have did Danielson some other time. We could have cut out Danielson and Daddy Magic. We didn't need that match, Maybe Bandito comes out there with Danielson. That would have been nice too, or whatever. But we certainly didn't need Fat 2.0 versus Bryan Danielson. We certainly didn't need that. We got a vignette for Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley. Holy hell. Holy hell. If you really want to know why I go so hard on Rock Hard Juice Robinson, watch this vignette. Had Juice Robinson, I hated Jon Moxley for 10 years. I'm like, what? He is literally bad. This guy came out there and got an anti-pop. All right? I'm talking reverse pop. I'm talking the crowd was making more noise before he came out there than when he eventually came out of the chute. It was just kind of like, it was a black hole of pop. It was no pop whatsoever. It was nothing. Orange juice Robinson, apple juice Robinson, prune juice Robinson, which is probably the prune juice Robinson. That's what we're going to call him, because he make you want to go to the bathroom. So prune juice Robinson, cranberry juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley. The guy has the audacity to call himself Rock Hard. Look, this fucking guy. For starters, he was doing like a bullshit Randy Savage parody for 5 or 6 years. That's what got him over with most people. He's like all colorful and all that kind of shit. They were really behind him, the Finn Juice. Yay, we love Juice Robinson. And then he basically threw all that away, which I wasn't mad about, because it's like, who gives a fuck, really? It's still Prune Juice Robinson. Then all of a sudden, he's basically generic, wet hair, Bullet Club, too sweet guy. That's he's like Chuck Palumbo in Bullet Club. This guy's the shits, all right? He's the shits. He sucks. The crowd does not care. The crowd did not care about this fucking match. They did not give a fuck. And I certainly didn't. Moxley beat the fucking guy with a cross arm breaker. Who gives a shit? Then immediately, Hangman Page comes out there. People actually react for him. He actually got a reaction, unlike Juice Robinson. Nobody cares. But Hangman comes out there, and what I'm hoping they weren't the butterfly pants. Again, my eyes are not that great, but he was wearing a pink shirt. All right, he was wearing a pink shirt, and he stared down Moxley. The two of them got nose to nose, eyebrow to eyebrow, even a little bit. And then they backed up as if they were going to fight. They were then interrupted by MJF. Now, before I go into what MJF interrupted them about, I have to talk about the MJF Wheeler Useless comment. Oh my God, that segment. Bro. Okay, I'm gonna give it a positive first. The only positive about this is that Wheeler Yuta was actually intense. I actually felt like he meant what he was saying. All right. So he storms to the ring, and he looks like a punished toddler storming to the ring. I mean, I don't know, man. His beard feels real ironic, like he shouldn't have it, like it doesn't fit his face. Sometimes, you catch, I saw a picture online of somebody who's, his mama made him wear a suit when he was 13, but it was too big and it didn't fit. It was kind of just hanging off of him. He looked like a mannequin at a Marshalls or some shit like that. That's kind of how Wheeler Yuta's beard fits on his face. It's too big for his face. So he looked like he's, wearing a fake beard. Anyway, he comes marching out there, and he talked about how he doesn't have a problem with MJF and yada, 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 but he had a problem with MJF putting his hands on Tony Schiavone. And that Tony Schiavone did more for this company than MJF has ever done. And he said that he wants to fight him, but he knows that MJF likes to hide, because MJF likes to hide behind his factions, like the Firm and the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. And he likes to hide behind his fake tan. He likes to hide behind the microphone, because in the ring, he can't hang. Then he actually did what I thought was probably the best part of this promo, is that he kind of jumped out in front of MJF's cheap heat. by saying he's going to come out here and talk about the Phillies or something like that. And, then MJF's music started to play. MJF came out there, immediately jumped into the cheap heat by saying Philly is where you live if you can't afford New York. Called Tony Schiavone a fat old prick. Says that he'd been wrestling Wheeler Yuta around the independents. They came up together. Said that Wheeler Yuta is one of the best. Then he actually fell into the trap by talking about the Phillies, to which Wheeler Yuta's like, I already did that. Like, I knew he was going to do that. And then MJF was stumped. He didn't know what else to say. And so that's why he went into the, I'm young, I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because I'm a multi-millionaire. I'm a big draw. I'm a multi-millionaire at 26. It's like, that fucked him up. I cannot believe, as bad as Wheeler Yuta is, how he managed to set that tripwire and MJF stepped right into it was the craziest fucking. I was just sitting there like, I can't believe that all Wheeler Yuta did the entire time he was out there blabbering was set up one tripwire that MJF would not be able to use one team. One team. He could have talked about the Eagles. He could have talked about anything else. He just had to step into the baseball team. And because Wheeler Yuta already did it, it muffled the punch of MJF's promo. And then MJF veered off into the fucking wilderness. He was off-road. I was like, I can't believe this. MJF's supposed to be really good at promos. But Wheeler Yuta set him up in a trap and fucked his whole promo up. At that point, he started talking about Wheeler Yuta having the charisma of present day Joe Frazier, and Joe Frazier being dead. That one didn't land either. Oh God, Wheeler Yuta said some shit about bad things happening in Philadelphia. He's going to get his hands on them or whatever. He marched up the ramp to come get him. And then some of the firm guys come out there and Wheeler Yuta stopped. He just kind of started pacing in the aisleway because he didn't want to get beat up by, these firm guys. Okay. MJF said he doesn't do brawls, but if he wants to professionally wrestle, he can do so next week. Okay. I can't believe it. That was the worst MJF promo in a long time. I'm not even going to hold you up. That was the shits. It was bad. It was a bad MJF promo, and it's all because Wheeler Yuta went out there and did his gimmick, which was funny as fuck and probably should happen far more often now that we know that it stirs MJF up and he forced him to do something else. And that's something that I have seen some people say is that, they think MJF relies too much on cheap heat. And so it was a nice little trap that Wheeler Yuta, but he should have been able to nimbly jump over that. He should have been able to avoid just not mentioning the fucking baseball team. It just makes no sense for him to do that. The guy literally just did this shit already and told everybody that you was going to do it. And then you came out there and did it. Dumb. Just plain dumb. So MJF breaks up Pillman. What am I thinking? Hangman and Moxley. Told them to stop arguing because it's not about who wins. They're both, just wrestling to see who's going to lose to him because he can cash his chip in whenever he wants. Then he says that he's a generational talent. And while he's up in the skybox or whatever, because he was watching Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta turned him around and attacked him in the skybox. Now, I actually did like this. They tumbled all over into the crowd. Wheeler Yuta got a couple of shots in. He had to get pulled off by security. He took a couple of cheap shots from the security guys, but he ended up getting pulled off and separated. I actually like that part. Okay, I like the Yuta popping up in the skybox because he didn't get to beat him up in the aisleway. So he caught MJF when he was by himself in that skybox and whipped his ass. All right, I like that part. And I also want to give Tony Khan some more credit because he actually continued a storyline. He didn't just set something and then the payoff is next week. He said, hey, we did something earlier in the show. Let's continue it. So MJF and Wheeler Yuta got into a bit of a tiff earlier in the night. They did a match. And then they even did another little thing with Hangman and Moxley, made people forget about the Wheeler Yuta MJF thing, and then they reintroduced it in a way that showed some action where Wheeler Yuta got the upper hand, and that was good. You know, Wheeler Yuta is still one of the worst promos I've ever heard, but the funniest thing about this for me is how he managed to drag MJF down with him, which is, look, I know MJF is on autopilot. He doesn't give a fuck, but come on. You should have been able to, I'm never going to get off that. You should have been able to get around that. He looked so silly out there talking about the baseball team after fucking Wheeler Yuta just told everybody he was going to do it. You know, it's kind of dumb. All right, so then they did a Darby Allin Jay Lethal vignette. I didn't understand it, didn't care. There's no heat between these two. Then Jay Lethal started talking about he's got to go this one alone, which perplexed Sanjay Dutt. And he was like, wait a minute, my meal ticket, where are you going? So Jay Lethal, his entire AEW run has been in 30-second vignettes and the occasional match on Rampage. Embarrassing. It sucks. It is what it is, though. So now let's talk about this Saraya, however you want to pronounce her name. And why is that even a thing? Before we even get into the content of this promo, people making it such a big deal how you pronounce her name. Saraya. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? You know, nobody cares. If you say it enough, people will get it, right? If you say Saraya, people will eventually just say Saraya. All right? We don't have to. She's going through Webster's dictionary and tweeting the shit out how to pronounce her name. I'm just kind of like, yo, I went through this with the Shamikas of the world. You know, the Antoinettes and all that bullshit. I've seen some of the most horrid names written down with apostrophes and all kinds of shit in them. I mean, Negroes don't use apostrophes at any other point in time except for when they're naming their daughters. And now all of a sudden, motherfuckers gonna be like, really make sure you accentuate the E in the name and all that other bullshit. I went through all of that already. It's a simple thing, right? Listen for it. Let people say it themselves. If they say it enough, if you say it enough, you'll get it. You know, her name is not pronounced how it looks. It's Saraya. It looks like Saraya, but we speak English. So S-A-R is not pronounced the same as S-I-R. So if you'd have just said Saraya, and Excalibur would have said Saraya, and other people would have just called her Saraya, we eventually would have just gotten to Saraya. We didn't need to fucking lecture on this thing. All right? Stupid. And they've been doing this for a week. You know, with them constantly tweeting out how to pronounce her name. It's not that big of a deal. It can't be that big of a deal. You know, it can't be. Don't act like a hood rat. All right? I can't stand that shit. You know what you're doing. All right? Let us figure it out. That's one thing that we can figure out for ourselves, how to pronounce your name. All right? Who gives a shit? But then she comes out there and cuts a promo. And there was no gas in the tank. So it was a bad night for mic work. And what made it even worse is that all these promos were long, too. So she comes out there and she talked about she was the Revolution before. And now she's the Revolution in AEW. And then she kind of stumbled and was standing there kind of, I don't know, like a deer in headlights. And said that she was very nervous. And the crowd was saying, this is your house. And so she ran with that and just like, yeah, this is officially my house. I guess the guys outside the ring, because she was giving us dead air after every other sentence, was telling her to, you know, wrap it up. And she's like, you know what? Let's waste some more time. I want the entire division to come out here. 5 fucking people collected themselves on the ramp and walked down. She said, I want the division out here. 5 people showed up. And it was all baby faces too. And then she started, oh God. She starts talking about how she's promising the crowd that she's going to make a change. And then she started introducing the women, starting with Toni Storm. Toni Storm is finally being showcased the way that she wants, that she deserves. And she's already the best women's champion. Like, she got pinned last week. She literally just got beat last week. Oh, God. Do you watch the product? Anyway, Britt Baker came out there and immediately, because it's a Britt Baker thing, said that Saraya was nothing but a shiny new toy and a catchphrase, and she needs to earn some respect around here. That Britt Baker is the real face of this division, and that she put her face on the line for AEW, and she even put her neck on the line, because unlike Saraya's neck, she can handle the load. Of course, Saraya looked a little bit upset about that, and she actually mentioned that half the people don't even know how to pronounce her name. Then she said she used to respect Toni Storm, but Toni Storm hangs around problematic people. While Britt Baker was talking, people just started chanting for Jamie Hayter, because she's, the sentimental favorite, I guess. At this point, Britt Baker sort of just kind of leans into it by saying, "You're lucky you're not wrestling Jamie Hayter." And then she said she'll wrestle Jamie Hayter after she gets done with Serena Deeb. Since she talked about her broken nose, apparently her nose is broken again. She's going to have more noses than Michael Jackson at some point. So then Saraya gets the microphone and says that she talked to Tony, a boss who finally listens to her, which, of course, I rolled my eyes at. I was like, this broad sat on Twitch for 2-3 fucking years getting paid to do nothing. And, of course, she had AEW is a new TNA anyway, so it doesn't really matter that she took a shot. In any event, she said that it's going to be a lumberjack match. And I was just kind of like, okie dokie. If you say so, boss, I guess you're the boss of the women's division now. It's still very unclear what her role is in AEW. She was out there for so long. It was still very unclear what she was supposed to be doing. If you didn't know whether she was going to wrestle before this show, you still don't know. Was she hired to be the general manager of the women's division or to run and book the women's division? We don't know. It was just, this is my house. The boss listens to me. And it was kind of like, all right, but what is your purpose here? What is your purpose? Why are you here? Nothing. Just, I don't know. She came out there and introduced Toni Storm and all them and didn't talk about herself at all. Outside of saying this is my house. So she set up the lumberjack match. Then she goes over to the commentary booth where she promptly, again, gets into how her name is pronounced. And then, I forget what douchebag, I think it might have been Taz, saying, like, I like to call him a lumberjill match. And she was like, just call it a lumberjack match. I was like, finally, she said something I can fucking agree with. Taz, fuck off. It's a lumberjack match. Come on. Just get over it, all right? We don't have to call it lumberjill. We don't have to call it anything. We really don't need to have this match, if we're being honest. At this point, Deeb and Storm go out there and they have a match. And I like both of these ladies. Generally speaking, I have spoken well of both of them. I didn't hate this match. I just didn't think it was the best that they could do. I think the crowd didn't really care. They tried. AEW tried by putting Saraya out there before the match. They didn't just put Toni and Serena out there cold. They had a lead in of Saraya and Britt and all of that shit. But the people didn't really get into it until they did that wild ass finish, which was a power driver from the second rope. It was a real ill finish. A little too ill for a regular match, but Serena Deeb took the L. Okay, cool. At this point in time, I would like to recognize Willow Nightingale, who used to look like a Jigglypuff just a couple of months ago. It looked like she lost a little bit of weight. And she actually looked very good in clothes. I really didn't recognize her. I was like, wait a minute, who is this? Who is it? Wait a minute, I'm dropping my notes and everything. I got her on my mind now, baby. But I was kind of like, wait a minute, who's that? And I'm like, okay, she got her, so she tightened up a little bit. And you know what? AEW is, Abaddon did the same thing. I was shocked. Oh, speaking of shocked, we'll talk about that in a moment. But I was shocked because I remember Abaddon being on Dynamite like 2 years ago, and she was like Eric Cartman in face paint. But now she's gotten herself together, and she looks not too bad. She's still a little chunky, but it's all in the right place. She's not on TV at all. I've seen this stuff on Twitter, which is the only place you probably can see her. But I'm going to give these two ladies some credit for getting into shape. So praise them. Praise hands for Abaddon. And I don't know if Willow Nightingale really got into shape, or maybe I was just looking for something positive out of this whole show and decided that she was the right one. But I guess the light hit her right today, and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. Anyway, Abaddon. I don't know what it is, but just like Max the Impaler, now Abaddon is somehow non-binary. So now Abaddon is a they/them. And I just rolled my fucking eyes at that too. Look, man, I don't care about what people are into and all that shit, but it just comes across as being very odd that people who didn't have a problem being girls a year ago all of a sudden have a problem being a girl. You still wrestle in the women's division. There's no non-binary division. So what division are you going to wrestle in? Make up your mind. Are you going to be the women's world champion, or are you going to wrestle guys too? Because I'm pretty sure they'll wrestle guys if they let them. If Tony Khan let them, he probably wouldn't let them. But nonsense. But Abaddon ain't on TV anyway, so I'm wasting too much time on that. Moving on. The Acclaimed. They were backstage because this is 90% of the tag team championships since the Young Bucks lost them. Is backstage promos and wrestling on fucking Rampage. They talked about next week being National Scissoring Day. I was like, okay. Then they said they had an open contract for Friday, which ended up being a triple threat tag team title match. I'm like, what? How the hell? How an open contract turned into a triple threat? How did that happen? Anyway, Keith Lee appears. Greetings and salutations, gentlemen, of my scissoring brothers. How art thee? My brother Swerve he's rather upset. He's disgruntled, or he would also be here. But Mr. Gunn, you interfered in our championship match. I am very cross with you. How could you do such a thing? Mr. Caster, Mr. Bowens, you guys were carried to victory. I shall see you again on Rampage. And then he stumbled out of there, or whatever the fuck. I was just like, God damn, bro. God damn. Luigi Primo, more FaceTime than Keith Lee. Luigi Primo, more FaceTime than like Aleister Black before he decided to take a walk or whatever he's doing. We'll figure that out, all right? I'm sure somebody will figure it out. Luigi Primo gets more time than all of these fucking guys. Fucking Daddy Magic had a match on this show. Goddamn, Keith Lee didn't. Wouldn't it have been made sense for Keith Lee to challenge Billy Gunn to a match for interfering and getting involved? Yeah, that would have made sense, right? But then it might have turned Keith Lee heel or something like that. You would think that interfering in the tag team title match costing me the belts, I would beat your ass. But Keith Lee's a gentle giant. He's an understanding giant. Besides, he wouldn't want to get that heart rate up too far. He might actually lose some of that shit. Anyway, Andrade, look at me. He's out there, and I don't know what it is about the way AEW cuts these kind of backstage promos, and sometimes it's like this in NXT too. But it seems like the argument does not begin until somebody says action, and the argument doesn't begin until the cameras are on them. Because it's like they're just standing there doing nothing, and then all of a sudden they just start yelling at each other. Like at least WWE TV, these guys are yelling before the cameras fade in or, whatever. Anyway, they start yelling about God knows what. Like, I don't even understand what Private Party and Butcher and the Blade are even yelling about. What are they even yelling about? I haven't seen any of these people in weeks. Where are these people? Where have these people been? Oh, well, Private Party, they was in that stupid Battle Royal last week. Oh, really? They were? Could have fooled me. I watched that fucking match. I don't remember seeing them in it. Maybe because I didn't care enough. But for fuck's sake, what were they arguing about? This whole angle is completely forgotten. I forgot this shit even existed. Anyway, Andrade turns to Private Party because the other one's turning babyface. You work for me. You work for me. I am your boss. I am your boss. You work for me. And then he got tired of telling them the same thing he's been telling them for the last 2 minutes. And so not even 2 minutes, maybe 15 seconds. So he turned it over to Jose. He put his publicist on it. And Jose let Private Party know that they need to understand, they need to shape up or get shipped out of the Andrade family office because Andrade is their boss. And they upset Butcher and the Blade. And I'm like, why should... I'd be like, I don't care about Butcher and the Blade being upset. Who cares about those fucking guys? Why did Andrade care about, look at me? Why did he care about them being upset? Why did he care about any of these people being upset? Why is he dealing with these fucking weirdos? Him being involved with this thing is completely dumb. It's all dumb. It was dumb when it started. God. In any event, Matt Hardy shows up and tells Private Party that Andrade is worse than Big Money Matt ever was, and that he apologizes to them for getting them involved with this, and he meant when he tried to make amends with them in the Battle Royal, which I guess actually occurred. I watched the match, don't remember it. Then he just suggests that these guys quit, get out of their deal, and come back to him, where he promises he's going to do the right thing this time. And I was like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Wait a minute, that's backwards. And anyway, I have no interest in seeing Matt Hardy team up with Private Party. We saw this shit for a year already. It didn't do nothing for Private Party. It's time for Private Party to do literally anything else. They need to get the fuck out of there, AEW. Now I know that, Private Party is, this is the second biggest wrestling company in the world. And before they worked here, they basically just did matches in House of Glory. But Private Party needs to spread their wings. Okay? If they're not going to be pushed as a top tag team in AEW, which they have 3 years to do it, they probably should just jump ship to Impact, where the tag team division is a lot more shallow. So there's a lot more room for them to move around and be top guys and all that kind of stuff. It also will help them develop better characters, because AEW right now is not developing characters at all. Look, Impact isn't doing a great job developing characters, but they're doing better than AEW. Literally Private Party has been the same gimmick for 3 years. They haven't added anything to the gimmick. The only thing now is that they look less stupid. They look less indie than they did 2 years ago. Which could just be them maturing and growing up a little bit and thinking that maybe having a blonde 2 rows of hair and coattails or whatever the fuck, is not the smart thing to do. Which, praise God, they learned and stopped doing. But for Christ's siggity sake, it's stupid. Moving on. Ricky Starks defeated Eli Isom. Eli Isom is actually not bad. He's one of those Ring of Honor guys that Tony Khan inherited and decided to do nothing with. He was a regular guy in Ring of Honor. And Eli Eisen, let's talk about him for a moment. It's not much to say. I mean, he just comes across as a real Peter Parker kind of guy. Just a regular, eat salads for lunch kind of guy. Make sure, he cleans his glasses before he puts them on kind of guy. He looks like a guy his mom still dresses him. That kind of dude. That's kind of how he was in Ring of Honor. So I'm not surprised at all that he's in a job guy position in AEW. He'll probably get shoved in some stupid faction on Dark or something like that. But he's not a bad wrestler. You wouldn't know it from watching this because he got beat in 2 minutes, as he should. Ricky Starks beat him in 2 minutes, but they didn't let Ricky Starks cut a promo. Again, fucking Luigi Primo. More television time than Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks was a perfect opportunity for him to cut a promo, to sort of follow up on his win, to brag about it or whatever, so that, Hobbs can have a reason to come back and want to take him out. But no, they just had a very short match with Ricky Starks wins, and, he looked great. Again, he looked great, but, no follow-up on his big victory over Powerhouse Hobbs, especially since the match didn't count on their records because it was non-sanctioned. And so the final thing is Jungle Boy having a promo, who, again, a bad promos of the evening. Jungle Boy says that this was one of his hardest matches ever, one of the greatest wins of his career versus Phoenix. And he got screwed over again by the two guys he cared the most about. And it says that he's going to get both of them. He's going to take down his tag team championships and put their heads on the wall. I cringed because I don't believe it. I don't believe you, Jungle Boy. Your voice too soft. Your body too small. I don't believe you. You got to carry like a butcher knife or something like that in order for me to believe you. You need to probably have some veins popping out of your neck. You probably need to grow one of those fake beards like Wheeler Yuta in order for me to believe that you are a dangerous man. I don't believe that you are dangerous. I believe you are cuddly. So that's AEW Dynamite. Complete and total embarrassment. Easily one of the worst Dynamites ever. I know that he's probably going to make the excuse that he doesn't have all of the talent. But for fuck's sake, you had everybody that matters. I have actually been enjoying Dynamite more without CM Punk and the fucking Elite because I didn't have to deal with the Young Bucks, which are the only members of the Elite that I really can't stand. Kenny Omega, take him or leave him. CM Punk, when he's doing something good, take him or leave him. But the Young Bucks, God, I can't fucking stand those guys. I'm glad they're gone. I'm pretty sure they'll be back soon to fuck everything up. But it to not sound too negative, and I know I've been negative for probably about an hour already. They changed up the format, which was good. They linked some segments to previous segments, which was also good. To have an opening segment set up not only one match, but two matches, some backstage stuff, and some fight scenes and stuff like that. This is cool. Okay, this is good. That's the kind of storytelling you need. You have to introduce your plot. But the problem that they had was they didn't introduce Bandito until well into the show. So you're not watching Danielson wrestle Jericho in the main event of this show. Jericho doesn't challenge Danielson until the end of the show, after he's already beaten Bandito. Jericho should have challenged Danielson for October the 12th or whatever the fuck it's going to be, while Danielson was still standing in the ring, and said, okay, you keep getting in my face. I've had this idea, this plan that I'm going to desecrate Ring of Honor, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to begin with you. October the 12th, you, me, I'm going to kick your ass. Danielson, Jericho 3. I'm going to kick your ass. And that would have been great. But he was wrestling Bandito. They should have introduced Bandito earlier. I appreciate at least that they followed up on Wheeler Yuta and MJF, but it's painful trying to watch Wheeler Yuta keep up with MJF on the microphone. And this is probably the worst MJF promo I've ever seen because, again, there's just one little landmine, and he stepped right in and fucked his whole thing up. It was absolutely embarrassing. Daniel Garcia, the most bland promo of all time. Of the two, I would say Yuta's was better than Garcia's, but they both were not really all that good. And to be quite honest, both of them were probably better than Saraya, or whatever they call her name is, because she looked lost. I know WWE does scripted promos, and from time to time, people who come from WWE, they get sent out to AEW without the script, and then she was trained in that system, and she'd been in that system for a long time. So not having, that guide of having a, written promo for her, it's going to be a little jarring. It's going to be a while before she really picks it up. But at the same time, she ain't wrestled and she ain't been on WWE and TV in 2 or 3 years. She been sitting behind, a computer screen on Twitch. She should know how to cut a fucking promo. It was clear that they were talking about her. We're going to hear from Saraya. We're going to hear from Saraya. She going to talk. I'm like, they've been talking about this for a week. You mean to tell me you had a week to come up with a promo and you came up with, I am the revolution and yeah, this is my house and that's it? Nothing else? She didn't even do a CM Punk about how her career got taken away from her and how she's going to fight to get it back and, yada, 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 or whatever the case may be, which that's what I expected. I expected her to come in there and be like, a friend or whatever, a wayward kick to the neck ended my career 5 years ago, but I fought and I scratched and yada, 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 and now I'm back, That would have been, a basic setup. Pretty much everybody who makes the big comeback cuts that promo. Tell everybody where you've been and why, and then talk about your struggles and that's how you take people on the ride and get people back interested in you. I'm telling you, and within the next 60 days, if she doesn't get better at promos, she's going to dissolve in water, and she's not going to be no different than anybody else on this roster, and it got to get back quick. She should have answered the question of what the fuck she was doing there. Outside of AEW is just the place to be. Like, okay, I guess, whatever. There was not, Toni Storm and Serena Deeb, they worked hard. They didn't shit the bed, but the crowd just didn't care and it made me not care. Bandito was amazing, but they didn't have any heat between him and Jericho. They didn't set up anything. But he went out there I can't believe he let Jericho kick out of his finish, but he's an indie guy. Probably didn't think too much about it. Didn't matter. Juice Robinson, the shits, and I can't stand him. He sucks. I'll take any time out of my day. I'll just take a moment to pause and talk about how shitty Juice Robinson is. And it's been that way since NXT. He's absolute garbage. He's a garbage tier performer. Ricky Starks not getting enough face time. Powerhouse Hobbs not showing up at all. No Miro. I don't know, man. Brian Pillman Jr. fell off the face of the earth. That's probably why I mentioned his name earlier. It's just unfortunate. And I think maybe some of these guys were just trying to, hunker down in Florida, which makes sense, But, look at the people that you had access to that you did pre-tapes with. And you managed to bring us that level of horseshit promo. I just can't believe it. Bad things happen in Philadelphia. It wasn't a lie. All right. What do you guys think? Let me know. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.